don't do anything about the environment. And I was saying, well, hey, we do stuff for children at risk. You know, we've planted, we've built schools, we've built orphanages, we've done all these things. I said, what are you doing? You know, and so we kind of got into a little bit of a sparring match. And he was talking to me about, well, if you really cared for humanity, you would actually care for the environment. And honestly, I have to say, before that conversation, I had never actually made the direct connection between caring for the environment and helping humanity. I kind of thought, well, I'm helping humanity, let the earth take care of itself, but you know, we're really destroying it so deeply. And so that conversation got me really, really thinking. And after that point, I was in Africa, and I was talking to people that we were building homes and schools and things for children at risk. And we were working in one of the slums there. And the person that was leading the care for the people in the slums, where we were doing the feeding programs and the education programs, said to me, you know, the slums are getting fuller and fuller and fuller, because they said there's a growing desert in the center of Africa. And I said, really? I said, how come? He said, well, the weather patterns have changed. I said, really? How come? And I started asking questions. And he said, the people came from all over the world because Africa is very rich in gold and diamonds and natural resources. And he said, so they came in and they started open pit mining. They cut down all the trees. And he said the cultures in those environments were all agrarian cultures that had been there for, you know, the similar lifestyle, taking care of the earth and planting their stuff. But he said when they cut down all the trees to do the open pit minings, when they did all of that, what happened, it changed the weather patterns, it changed the wind patterns, it actually changed the rain patterns, and there began to be droughts over this area in Africa, and it actually made this desert into a larger desert and a larger desert and a larger desert. And he said what happened to the people was that they were driven into slums because they'd lived for centuries, you know, in an agrarian culture, and they didn't have skill sets for cities, so they were driven to the cities where they didn't have the skill sets, they didn't have the education. And he said those people that had families and extended families, and you know, that were always self-sustaining, became the highest at risk for the things that we had always been taking care of: the orphans, the widows, the child soldiers, the sex trade, all those things. And I was realizing that we were dealing with the effects of something much deeper that was actually directly caused by environmental issues in some areas of the earth. And so since then I thought, well, you know, in my sphere of influence, we hardly ever talk about the environment. In fact, if you try to bring up the environment, people roll their eyes and they kind of think you're this political party or that political party, depending on what spin comes out at the night. And it really isn't a political issue, it's a human issue. It's caring for people, and it's caring for creation and the earth and the beauty and all of the animals. And it's so deep, it should be in every fiber of our being to care for that from which we all receive our sustenance. And so anyway, since then, I've actually got connected with Annie and Fran McCauley, whom I love. I've known them now for several years. And I said, you know, in our spheres of influence, we have almost no sound for creation. Would you come and would you begin to give testimonies and share what you're doing? And so I will introduce them a little bit later, because I've come to know and love exactly what they carry. And they are walking with Tyler and Christina, who are doing amazing things that they've been connected to through different years. And they all have different aspects of the environment that they're caring for. But first, I wanted to, because I believe that as we start saying this sound, It's a sound for us to begin to hear that many of us will be called to care for the earth in different spheres of influence. And so tonight we have two people zooming in. One is Cameron Jones, with whom I had that intense, fierce conversation because I'm really good friends with his mom in the kitchen. It was, one of the fiercest conversations I've had. And I had to tell him I was wrong and he was right. And but I used to think I was right and he was wrong. But you can even teach an old dog new tricks. And the other who we're starting with is Matthew Arnold, who's an environmental lawyer. And you might have met Diane this week if you've been here earlier. She is a clinical therapist, there she is, and does marriage counseling, and her husband's a businessman, but their son is an environmental lawyer, and he has agreed to Skype in. He was actually going to try to come to the event, however, he had a court case this week, a big court case, and couldn't come, but he's going to just say that one of the ways we can care for the environment is from the legal aspect, and why it's important to actually create laws that protect creation, that protect the earth on which we live. And so I've asked him to just come on. He's scheduled for 6:45, so I'm watching the clock, and tell a little bit about him, who he is, his journey, and ways where people can be involved to do something for the good of all humanity. We are our brother's keeper, and we are creation's keeper. That was actually an original mandate for anybody who has ever read the Bible. It's the original mandate before the fall was to tend the earth, to care for it, to take care of it. And so this is not something that originated with me or my idea or my fierce conversation with Cameron. This is something that all of us have to do in order to steward care for humans. It's part of human care and creation care. They're inextricably linked. So Matthew is going to come on. And Matthew, I don't know if you can hear me yet.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. And you are an environmental lawyer. How would you ever get into a career like that? So obviously you're a smart guy. You're a smart guy.
It must be a certain amount of craziness. It depends on, the kind of environmental law you want to do. But, so I personally came to it. I was working as a naturalist and doing research on a certain kind of sparrow in the coastal zone in South Carolina. We tangentially became involved in a legal dispute, and I found that you could actually use data and findings to make an argument before a neutral third party to see if you can make a difference. And that's how I ended up exploring.
So I just want to stop right there, because I think you've caught on something that most of us can never hear. The fact that you were studying a sparrow, which led you to a beetle, and the whole cycle of life and the chain of life, and how losing one species or impacting one species, then has a reciprocal effect on another species, So can you go into why, as a naturalist, you zoned in on one sparrow?
Why did we zone in on one sparrow? So the sparrows that we were talking about are an immigrant sparrow. It's a really boring subclass. But they're kind of secretive, and they are confined to a certain region in the salt marsh. And they are now under an immense pressure from rising water because they have nowhere to go. So they exist within a certain stratum of the what we call spartinal alterniflora. So it's a little zone. It's a zone of seaside grass that exists in the marsh, and those sparrows have no choice as to where to live. And so The dusky seaside sparrow is one of the subspecies that existed. That was actually went extinct when I was probably about 4 years old. So it went extinct in my lifetime. And the next one up is the Nelson seaside sparrow, and that one is on the brink as well. So I think I was attracted to it because we're looking at some of the last vestiges of an entire species. So
Wow.
maybe I think that's the best answer I can give it.
Wow, yeah. And so that led you from being a naturalist to preserve these species, because there is a cycle of life where one is dependent on the other, and it's, something that we should care for so that we don't lose whole species, but also the long-term effects of losing species is something that many of us don't think of. So as an environmental lawyer, what do you do to protect species?
So I would respond to the last thing you said. And I think there's a quote from a Virginia senator from back in 1973 that is, "Extinction is a fate that's worse than death," which is something that I've always really liked. And I just want to reiterate that I came to it because I studied biology in college, and I saw that, in academia, you can kind of scream into the wind all you want, and that there's not a lot you can do. Sometimes you're kind of powerless from a scientific standpoint. And I think the law allows you to apply science in a practical way. So I think that's what I just want to clarify. That's, I think, how I came into it. So I don't know if that maybe changes the question.
Okay, and so if you were to encourage people that actually wanted to do something for the environment, what would you say the greatest thing that environmental law does to help humanity, help the planet?
So in the United States, I would say that the greatest thing that environmental law does is that it helps. So again, I want to be clear that there's a broad spectrum of environmental law. So I'm just speaking from my own perspective. But I think that for me, what environmental law does really well, or what I really like about it, is that I can ensure that Congress keeps the promises that it made to my grandchildren. So for me, things like the seaside sparrow and the pileated woodpecker or the red-cockaded woodpecker in the coastal zone in South Carolina are things that are just really worth cherishing. They have an inherent value that's hard to really put it. They have an inherent value that you can't put a price tag on. And to me, it's something that they are a part of me, and it's something that I would like to share with my grandchildren. And I think that Congress has set forth a certain regimen of statutes that really protect those interests. And so I think what we get to do in environmental law is be sure that those promises are kept. And I think that's part of it.
Yeah, unlike a scientist simply studying certain species, you actually, as a lawyer, protect those species.
Yeah, you get to go into court and actually argue over their continued existence. It's kind of a high stakes.
And I understand that you've actually taken taken cases all the way to the Supreme Court.
I have, yes, just finished up one.
Wow.
We'll see how it goes. It's under review now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So good for you. Now, what would you encourage people that haven't really thought about the environment or protecting the environment, like a person like myself that didn't even start thinking about it? I'm already 59, and I didn't even start really thinking about it in a specific way until about 5 years ago. What would you say to us that have politicized the issue and dismissed the issue? What would you say as an environmental lawyer we should be actually doing in our regular daily life spheres of influence to ensure that our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren have have something protected?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think there are many corners of the environmental movement. So what we work on is primarily wildlife issues. It sounds like you're going to have Cameron on, who is a proponent of healthy forests. It just depends on what you care about. I would say support legislation that protects those things. There are also private avenues for doing the same. There's an entire strange dark corner of the tax code that allows you to create conservation easements for things that you like. So
hold it. So accountants.
It's a really big question. I wish I could give you a better answer.
I just want to say, that's amazing. So accountants can actually take accounting and find that strange dark corner of the economic world that will give tax cuts to people that preserve the environment. There's all kinds of angles you're saying that we can come at this.
Absolutely, yeah. Conservation easements are one of the growing fields in the environmental movement. I would say they're powerful. I mean, it's people making decisions in perpetuity to save a piece of land or a corner of the world that they cherish.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I have a friend who is, he actually wrote a book. It's an economic book called Completing Capitalism. And the subtitle is The Economics of Mutuality. But in that book, he argues that, that when we invest in the environment as well as in capital prosperity, environmental prosperity, and social prosperity, not only is the person themselves that invests in the three areas, it actually creates prosperity for generations, for everybody. So yeah, it's interesting you would bring that up. So anyway, I'm saying this to all of us and those of us watching online, that there are many angles that we can come at this, no matter what your skill set is, no matter what your gift is, you can use it to protect the environment. And I think you're a real forerunner. How wide is the spectrum of environmental law?
Yeah, wide, very. There are, so for me, in my lane, I would say, there are people that work for NGOs that help push certain policy objectives of NGOs. You can work in the government by either defending decisions that the government, environmental policy decision, or even, putting forth environmental policy decisions in the government, or you can actually work in the private industry ensuring compliance with the existing policy choices that the government has made. So yeah, there's a broad spectrum, and people go, in all lanes of it. And I think it's kind of at the end of the day, sort of the same objective.
Wow, that's amazing. And I just want to do a shout out because your mother is here in the crowd. And anyway,
Great.
Could you stand, Diane? And,
I can't see anything.
That's okay. We know you can.
Great.
We can see you perfectly. You're on a big screen. We can see you zoomed right. No, I'm kidding.
I apologize for that. I'm very sorry.
No,
it's too much in my face.
No, but I do have to give a shout out to your mom because she said on your dissertation you actually referenced your mother who taught you how to argue.
This is true. Yeah.
Come on, let's have it for the moms in the room. Even moms, it has been said that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. So here we are. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
I'm still 0 for 1,000 against her though. So she's the real lawyer.
When you go to the real Supreme Court, you don't actually win there. Okay.
Yeah. They're easy. That's a cakewalk compared to Diana.
Okay, good. Do you have any final thoughts you want to throw in here before we bring Cameron on?
No. I appreciate having me on.
Okay.
There's some. I want to say back to your earlier question about things being connected. I'm going to butcher the quote, but there is some Thoreau quote about everything. If you pull on one thread in nature, you find out how interwoven it all is, and that you can't separate one thread from the rest of it. And so I think that's a thing to keep in mind. So I appreciate being invited on to talk about it, and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully in the future, we'll have a whole bunch more people like you, because we're going to get to that point later in the conversation with Fran and Annie, but about how if you throw out one thread, it's like pulling one thread out of a garment. It affects all the other threads and colors of threads around that garment until the whole thing begins to crumble. And I was talking at the beginning of this thing about that same concept, but I think it's great that you reiterate that, because we'll see that in a direct way later as well.
It's the driving theme of all of it. So
wow. Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate it. So we'll give you a big shout out. Thank you very, very much. Awesome. Yeah. And so these are concepts I want us to all think about. I want us to be really aware of how creation is connected, how there's this interconnected world, the way that it was created, so that we need each other. The whole idea of interdependence, the whole idea of caring for each other, and we are a brother's keeper, we are nature's keeper, and it's a fundamental reality that all of us have to participate in. So I'm hoping that at the end even of this evening, ideas will come to each one in the room of small things they can do. Mother Teresa used to say, little things with great love. The problems are big, but if everybody, one of us became a solution to a problem around us, then we can actually change much of the trajectory of the way things are going in the current climate world. So anyway, we now have Cameron Jones on, and Cameron is my inspiration. Cameron is the one that as I said at the beginning, that has brought me to this place of understanding how important this is. And so even though he's much younger than he's much wiser and smarter in many ways. And this is a passion. Cameron is a very passionate person. And one thing I love is passion. And Cameron and his brother are actually friends of my son, so it's like I told Judah he had to be on here, so anyway, to watch you. But Cameron, you have seen that we have a lot of issues with deforestation. You have, it's not good enough, and this is what I want to say to all of us. It's always easy to point the finger, to say this is the problem, to accuse this problem, but I'm not that interested in people that can point out the problem. I'm looking for people that can find a solution. I'm looking for people that actually are thinking and say, okay, that's the problem, how can I solve it? And take responsibility in their sphere of influence to bring a solution. And what I respect about Cameron and Bryce is that they saw a problem and actually worked towards finding it. So tell us a little bit about your history, your passion, how you got into this, and what you're doing, and your company.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Stacey. That was quite the introduction. And I'd just say I'm not only friends with your son, I'm friends with you as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I do have so can you see me, first of all?
Yes. You can't see us, but we can see you. As I keep saying, you're on a great big screen and everything's totally, no, I'm kidding, blown up. You look awesome on screen, Cameron.
Okay. Well, I do have, so I guess it's up to you. I do have a little video. It's about 1.5 minutes that I can show just to introduce people to what we're doing.
Sure.
I have a slide and I can just walk through it.
What's your preference, either or?
Let's go for the video, and then I'll just talk to it afterwards.
Okay, perfect.
I think people like videos.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay.
Every year, the planet loses 13 billion trees and regains less than half of that. For started Flash Forest with the goal of healing the planet's lungs, taking that job seriously. Until that job is done well, no the job really matters.
Bryce.
Timber companies are improving their technology year over year. They're lean, they're efficient, they use advanced all-terrain vehicles, artificial intelligence, and even autonomous logging trucks.
Okay, so we're really good at cutting down trees, but how are we at planting them?
Well, by and large, the technology is essentially this.
Our company, Flash Forest, uses drones, aerial mapping technology, automation, and ecological science to plant trees at a rate that until now hasn't been possible.
Thanks. This drone can plant as fast as 10 people. And just one of our pilots can control 10 of these drones. That's the pace we're going to need to fight climate change.
Check out these pods. Inside each one of these are 3 pre-germinated tree seeds, a unique blend of acid to help them sprout faster, and enough nutrients to sustain them for 9 months. And not only that, forests are complex, and every species counts. No longer will reforestation focus only on a handful of trees. We choose plants that support full ecosystem recovery.
Flash forest. Right. Okay, it was a little hard to hear. That's amazing. But I'm going to try to make a quick synopsis. So you and Bryce, that was Bryce with the long hair there, created this drone that one person can man 10 of those drones. Is that true? Or one drone?
So one of those drones plants trees, and they're these seed pods. So they have multiple seeds that we kind of pre-germinate. So we treat them so that they're going to grow really fast, and we plant those at a rate of about 1 a second. So one drone plants at about the speed of 10 humans, and one person can control up to about 10. So it's quite a bit faster than conventional.
So that would be exponentially, like almost like 100 times, 10 times 10. Like, I'm not a mathematician, however, that I do know. Is that accurate?
I'd say that's the objective right now, because we are still young. We're not doing 10 to one person just yet, but I think we could easily get to that point. But
wow.
We're definitely planning 10
wow.
people one drone. We could definitely have multiple drones.
That's amazing. Now, so I understand that you saw the problem that we are cutting down 13 billion trees annually around the world, and we're not able to plant as many trees as fast as we're cutting them down. So your solution was to create something that would exponentially increase the planting of trees and plant them in such a way with the nutrients around them that would supply nutrients for how many months? 9 months. So
it's about 9, yeah. That's what we're trying.
Wow, that's brilliant. Okay, hold it. Who thought this up?
Yeah, so the great question. And just on that stat that you were listing, the 13 billion, it's actually arguably even a little higher than that. And the amount that we typically plant, humans restore from either areas lost to wildfire or reclaiming like an area that's being harvested, is about 6 billion. So there's about a 7 billion tree net loss. So those numbers aren't sustainable. And Bryce was a tree planter in the past, and this is a bit of the backstory to how the idea came. But when you're a tree planter and you're in the bush and you're at these tents working, you sit with the loggers as well. But they have automation, they have artificial intelligence. That, like we talked about that in the video, very, very advanced technology. And the tree planters are still kind of out there with their bags and their shovels, and it's such an important job. But I think, Bryce was kind of inspired to try to tilt the scales, maybe get those that are fighting for the environment equipped with the same technology and the same kind of intellectual resources, like getting coders, getting people that are really excited about software and hardware, working for the environment. And so I think that's kind of, and we're not the only ones in this sphere, though we do some things that are quite unique, but we're definitely the first in Canada.
That is awesome. Well, anyway, I'm like, I want to say, like, I know personally, I'm Cameron Jones' friend, like I know him. So yeah. But anyway, that's awesome what you're doing. And any last, I know you're really busy. You said, look, we're working day and night trying to get this out. You're actually working with governments and state governments, national governments that have been through major wildfires like Australia, etc., to actually help reforest some of these atrocious forest fires that have gone on, correct?
Yeah, so right now we're doing a pilot plant in British Columbia. So that's going to be in a post-wildfire area. That's in about a month. Then we're coming back to Ontario, and then we're actually going to be in Hawaii this fall. So we're working with the government over there to try to plant trees in a tropical environment. But then as soon as we conclude those trials, our big vision is to go to Australia and go to Brazil. Right now, we're meeting with the company again on Friday to talk about trying to get us into the Amazon. And we're moving fast, and we're still doing a lot of testing. Like, I don't want to say that this technology it's 100% commercially ready, but we're trying to get it everywhere we can, test it in as many environments so that we can take care of those forests that have been lost and that are so important for biodiversity, like the Amazon and like those in Australia.
Wow, that's amazing. I do have some major connections in the Amazon River Basin that are working to actually protect those species as well. So I maybe can talk to you later. But anyway, thank you very, very much. Does anybody, before he goes off, have any specific question? Because he won't be here. Terry, can you come up and just grab the microphone? I know you have to go shortly, but we'll ask you a couple questions.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to be up super late tonight anyway, so...
Hey, I just wanted to know, I know that this is a new system that you're trying to implement, but do you know the mortality rate of what you're depositing in the ground? And how are you nourishing it after you deposit it after the 9 months?
That's a fantastic question. We did a bunch of plants in the fall, which we've been monitoring, but we're doing it through multiple seasons, right? Because you'll have lots of seeds germinate, but then they get kind of pervaded by rodents, or just you can have drought conditions. So with all of our plants that we're doing right now, we are trying to monitor it over 12 months. So I don't really want to say exactly what the survival rate is. We have a rough idea because we've been doing so many tests, and we know really well how it works in controlled environments. But that's actually the reason why we're going to British Columbia, Hawaii, Ontario, and then Latin America within the next few months, is because we really want to collect numbers on long-term survival. So we'll be releasing more of those numbers, I think, over the next few months, but that's actively what we're testing right now. In our personal controlled tests, it's actually doing very well, much higher than aerial seeding, a little bit less than conventional tree planting, and then we're just constantly trying to improve it up.
So I have a question, and that is, at this stage of the game where you're at right now, what can we do to support you, to enable you to accomplish your goal?
That's a great question. So we actually did a call out. So we did a Kickstarter, and we just talked about, like, this is our company. We were completely self-funded when we got the drone, and we augmented it, and we needed to scale up. And then Kickstarter went viral, and we put a call out. We just said, hey, if you have experience, if you have botanical experience, if you're a soil ecologist, engineers, software engineers, hardware engineers, like, we need volunteers. So I think if there's someone in the crowd that is interested in volunteering with us and working with us, and they think they have an angle that could be helpful, please reach out. You can contact me at contact@flashforest.ca. In addition to that, I think we've got so much. I think there's just so much that needs to be done, right? Like Stacey was saying this earlier, that it's not just the forest, and Matt spoke about that as well, protecting wild species. I think just people being more aware of both the state of the environment, but also their means to do something about it. That's the main takeaway that I think all of us want. We just want to see people get inspired and realize, you know what? We have it within our means to address these issues. This it's just really a matter of, I think, just like putting yourself to work, surrounding yourself with people that share similar convictions, and then just building something. It's like the ocean cleanup project. This kid from the Netherlands now working on cleaning up all of the plastic out of the ocean. It's just being inspired and actually sitting down and doing the work. Yeah, I think that's the main takeaway. It's just seeing people kind of be inspired to fight for the environment.
That's awesome. And I think, we were talking earlier today about what's in your sphere of influence. What can you do? If everybody just thought, okay, what's the problem around me? And what can I do? I can clean this beach. I can do that, suddenly. And even as a tree planter, to see there's an issue, and then to come from having a summer job as a tree planter, going to university, then saying, well, that's an issue with tree planting and finding a solution. That's just outstanding. I'm just so proud of you. I just think that's amazing what you're doing. And also, I think business can start funding. Some of you who are business people, your main power is to create wealth. You have that ability, maybe not the engineer ability or the soil engineer ability, but you have something that you can partner with and see these ideas actually take on greater and greater impact, because it'll affect our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. So it's not just about us. So, do you have a website? What's your website? Your website. Can you tell us your website name?
Yeah, it's just flashforest.ca. There's lots of information on it there. We are partnering with some companies actually who are going to try to help subsidize some of these pilots, because they're largely funded. But yeah, I'm not too worried. I mean, it's been so, I think, just encouraging for us. Like you putting on this conference, Stacey, I think that's amazing. You're doing a conference just to pull together people about how you can work collectively for the environment, and you just want to get people that are not even necessarily like-minded or working on the same thing, but people that are going to challenge each other and inspire each other at the same time. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. So keep putting on these conferences. I'd be happy to show up to any
Okay, one day we'll do it, and we'll have you in person come. When you're not so busy, we'll just, we'll have you come. And you'll take us all tree planting. We'll all buy a drone and we'll all plant a tree or something. Who knows? But thank you very much, Cameron. I really appreciate it. So, what? And Wesley, he's sitting on the front row, and he says, hi, come on. And he says, go Bryce, go. Go Bryce, go, too.
Go Bryce, go.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Cameron.
I was going to make a comment about people eating less meat, but I thought Wesley might be in the crowd.
Well, tomorrow we're doing a beach cleanup here, actually at Pismo Beach, and we have Beyond Meat that's coming to help sponsor it and some other things. Awesome. So we're getting there. I like it. We're getting there. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Cameron. Say thank you to Bryce too. Okay, awesome. Okay, inspiring. Now I'm going to bring on Annie, because Annie is going to introduce Tyler and Christina. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about these are three of these people here. One of these things is not like the others. Three of these, about three of them are marine biologists. Okay, so they're Annie and Fran are marine biologists, and Christina is a marine biology student, or you already graduated? She's graduated. She's also a marine biologist. Three of them, and how they got into that. But I think one of the greatest things that I've seen, I want to brag about Fran here for a minute, because before we get into solving a problem, I think there's roots that we've lost. There's connections that we've lost. And when I look at Fran, I don't know how many of you saw the movie The Horse Whisperer. I always call Fran the Fish Whisperer, because Fran has an ability to be more in harmony, with nature. When, there's legends about Fran that when he goes swimming or when he's snorkeling or whatever, the dolphins come and they don't swim away. Fish don't swim away. They swim towards. And there is a connection, I think, that many of us just we were created to take care of, to tend the earth, to care for the earth. It was in the original mandate, you know, and we've lost a lot of times the connection. We just want to, we destroy instead of heal. We, instead of caring for, we ignore or don't foster. And so, Fran, how did you, were you always in tune with nature, or what is this? And the funny thing is, his name is Francis. Wow. Enrique, Ricardo, Moes. He's got like 10 names. But he's originally from Spain. Okay, so his family's all Spanish. But he his first name is Francis, and you know, one of the great saints of the church, Saint Francis, was known for being totally in tune with nature, and that the birds would come, you know, the legends about St. Francis. And I think the spirituality, when you're in touch with the Holy Spirit, the creator of the universe, it actually keeps you in contact. We should be, you know, in contact and in connection, harmony, as it were. So how did you come upon this? Did you always have this ability as a fish whisperer, or what happened?
Thank you, Stacey, for that. My name is Francisco, or Francis. And,
can you tell us all your names?
Yeah, eventually, yes, I can. But I just want to say there is definitely something about carrying the name Francisco or Francis, because I'm the 5th generation of Francisco, firstborn. And there's always been an attraction to nature just from that name, you know? Just reading the story
Identity.
of St. Francis is just, of Assisi, yeah. It's just an amazing platform, right? I don't know if you guys have read much about him, but he really was just amazing how he connected with God's creation. And so I've always had an affinity to that ever since I was a child. But I think really studying God's creation as a biologist is really what awakened my desire to know more. And it doesn't just start in the head, right? Just here, as we grow in the Western world, we're always just thinking, you know, logically with our minds. But what if there's a spiritual component to this that we need to pursue, right? There is, right? In Genesis, it talks about it. What's the first thing the Lord tells Adam and Eve? Go tend the garden. It's the first thing. Go tend the garden. And then we'll walk in the evening and we'll talk about your day. It must have been amazing, you know, all the interactions that they had with creation every day are available to us. And that's kind of where my thought process started, was it's available. You just have to go out there and investigate. And you have to do it with your whole being, not just your mind. Not just logically thinking, okay, the trees were made this way. No, you have to go, you know, hold some. And I know that the New Age is kind of taken off with that, but I think as believers, you know, there's a place for us to call on the Lord to show us about His creation. Yeah. Teach us. Show us how it is that we are to tend. Wow. And so I think when I go into the water, you know, as a biologist, as I'm into the water, and I start seeing God's creation. You know, you guys have all seen an aquarium, right? It's just vibrant with life. It's calling out, right? And I just want to challenge you guys to just ask for more, because that's really where it started with me. Is I wanted more, Lord. Show me more. Reveal yourself to be more in your creation. The scriptures are full of that, right? Ask the birds of the air and they will teach you. And, you know, it's right there for us to access. It's just that I think that as believers, we're just a little bit afraid to kind of go off on a tangent and not think that it's the Lord. But that's how I started. I just started in the water. And I just started kind of whispering, listening, trying to understand. Lord, how did you make this? What is it here that I can learn more about you? And what are the things that you have for me in this? How can I bless these animals? How can I really tend to creation? What is it that these fish, or these whales or, you know, these bison or whatever it is, your dog, your cat. How can I connect like the way you would connect? When you walked in the evenings with Adam and Eve, you guys would talk about the garden. I want to learn about that. And that's really where my steps started, was just, you just start asking questions and then you start becoming more aware. It really is an awareness of God's creation. That's really what Stacey's asking me. How do you become more aware of the creation? How do you really connect with it? So I just encourage everybody in your yards, as you're walking into your driveway, just, Lord, make me more aware. I want to be more aware. Teach me about your creation.
Wow, I think that's so profound. I remember we had neighbors, and they took in a First Nations person, a Native Indian, into their home, and he lived with them for a while. And one day he was, our friend, his name was Dave, was out mowing his lawn, and the Indian that they had taken into their home said, like, why do you guys, white guys, always do that? And he said, what do you mean? I'm just cutting the lawn and, you know, trimming the bushes. He said, yeah, well, why do you white guys always do that? And then Dave said, well, you know, I'm just cleaning up the yard. And then the native brother said, yeah, but you see that forest across the street? There's no grass mowed. The colors of the flowers are all different, all in there. The trees are all different. There's some dead ones. There's some live ones. He said, what's more beautiful, the forest across the street or all those lawns in a row that look all the same? And, you know, I think, you know, when you're talking, I'm remembering that story, and it causes us to think differently. I think it's a thought process. It's a spiritual experience. Really, it's not just logic. It's part of how it's in our spiritual DNA. So it's beautiful. Thank you so much, Fran. So now, Annie, you introduce these two wonderful young people that are teaching us all these great things. So
Yes. Thanks, you guys, for coming to Tyler. And I need a little help with your last name, Nishikawa. Sorry.
Nishikawa.
Tyler, and he's sporting his nonprofit on his shirt there.
Okay, anybody can, he has a table with shirts. We clean beaches. If you want a shirt, t-shirt, you know.
Every 10 t-shirts allows us to put on an event. So.
There you go.
Nice,
Awesome.
That's great. And Chrissy, shirt swinger.
Shirt singer.
So close.
Right?
So a Japanese name, a German name, this is not easy. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Chrissy is with us at Mountain Sea Adventures. And just, can you quickly just tell us about how just your passion and how you got to Mountain Sea? It's an interesting story, and how your passion started for that.
Yeah, sure. So I would say, gosh, I was over a year and a half ago, I'm from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and I was living in Columbus. Do we have other Ohioans? Yay! Okay, cool. So I was working 3 part-time jobs there. I had this idea of a trifecta job that would meet every aspect that I wanted in my vocation, which was, I loved marine biology. I got my degree in that. I loved working with kids. I found that working at Sunday school with my churches, and I wanted my faith involved. And so I was working at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. I was working at a scuba shop, and I was also the director of family ministries at my church. And wow, my life was hectic. But I had just come across the Indeed page for Mountain Sea Adventures, and I saw that it had every single thing that I wanted. And so I put out my application, and within a week's time, I was on the phone with Annie, and I cried like twice in that interview, because I was just like, oh my God, thank you, God, that you sent this job my way. And within a month's time, I went out to Mountain Sea Adventures, and it just like, as soon as I landed on Catalina Island, it was like, wow, I'm home. Like, this is exactly where I want to be. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so after that, you entered into marine biology?
I got my degree a year before that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So why do you feel like it's so important to reach out to the next generation? Because I think that's one of your passions, right? Can you just, regarding the environment?
Yeah, sure. So I realized when I was getting my degree, I felt like a lot of people that were in the classroom, they had this really strong sense that they wanted to do research. And I felt like I was never really a part of that calling into research. I felt like everybody was just very driven at wanting to write all these thesis papers and these, which is amazing. We need that, obviously, but I felt like I never really caught on that culture of that realm of science. I felt like I always had this leaning to relationship. I wanted to be having intentional relationships with people that I came across, and I realized public outreach, something with education. And then when I found out I loved kids, that was really like clicked, boom. I got to do stuff with kids. I got to teach them about the environment. So I think, does that kind of answer the question?
So what kind of things do you teach them?
Lots of stuff. So we have so many different kinds of classes. We have our
This is through Mountain and Sea Adventures.
Yes. So we do our fish lab, which includes our snorkeling adventure. We do bird lab, which is our kayaking. So everything's tied into an activity. So they're always having fun when they're learning, which is definitely one of the best ways for it to stick in their brains. They need something to keep it hands-on. And we also, like, whenever I give them orientation at the beginning of the week, I always tell them, like, I need you to just close your eyes for a second and drop every idea that you have about what you're doing in school right now. You are a marine biologist in training. I want you to really put that on this week and really see what it would feel like to be out in the field looking at all these creatures and experiencing the different kinds of creatures that are out there.
And what do you find the fruit of a Mountain and Sea Adventure camp does for a young person?
I would say the fruit of Mountain and Sea Adventures is not only are we creating this space for them to feel out what it means to be a scientist, and that, that's like the face value, but even deeper than that, we go into, okay, but what about you as a person? What's changing inside of you? What's a character trait that goes with your class? So for Fish Lab, we talk about courage. Some of the kids have never been in the ocean before. And so we tell them it could be scary for you, but we are all here in this class together. We're a team, and we're going to get you to break your fears here. We want you to really explore and not let your fear hold you back from understanding God's creation that's out there.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's so good.
Tyler, I love your story of how you started Reclaim Beaches. And could you share that?
So Annie and Fran founded Mountain and Sea Adventures. And Mountain and Sea Adventures does environmental camps for up to 6,000 public California high school students per year. They've had 100,000 public high school students through that, where they teach them courage, integrity, faith, risk, all of those character traits while being immersed in creation and having fun, kayaking, hiking, etc. And our daughter also works there, so we're pretty happy. And but so they are all from Mountain and Sea Adventures, which, And yeah, Scott and Dion's son, who's married to our daughter. But Tyler is from a different organization called We Clean Beaches. Now, do you have a website?
So we are getting a website currently.
Okay.
WeCleanBeaches.org.
WeCleanBeaches.org. So they're in the process of that. But tell us, how would you start a beach cleaning movement? Why, how, and what happened?
Okay, so
Put it right close to your...
My love for the ocean started... It probably started my senior year of high school. I took an internship out in Costa Rica, and I was working as a backpacking guide in Costa Rica. And I would take kids from high school backpacking across from one side of the peninsula to another. But while I was there, I learned a lot about conservation and learned about what happens to basic plastic when it goes into the ocean. I really took that to heart. So when I came back and I got into college, I was really busy, but I always knew in the back of my head I wanted to do something with conservation. I really wanted to make sure that I can help the environment and put my imprint on this planet. So this past summer, actually, it started this past summer, I went to just my local beach. I was like, okay, every week I'm going to come out.
But you said your internal motivation. You also had an internal motivation. You told me that in the back room.
Yes.
Which was?
It was just to de-stress. It was literally just to go and take time out of myself and just learn a little bit about myself by going out to the beach and cleaning it. So I said to myself that summer, I'm going to go out to the beach every week and I'm going to clean this beach and I want to see if I can make a difference. And so I kept doing that. And then one week and then the next week. And then by the third week, one of my friends saw what I was doing and wanted to join me. So they joined me on the beach clean and it was awesome. I made a little video. I had my little GoPro strapped to my chest. Everyone was looking at me really weirdly, but it was awesome. I loved it. And then so I posted that video on social media, and it inspired other people to come out. So I had 2 more people come out the next time. And then I was like, hey, I can start like a little group, and we can go beach cleaning all together. So I was like, that's awesome. And then so we kept doing that. I kept posting videos, kept doing stuff on social media, and I kept just trying to make this world a better place. And basically, we just grew in numbers. And then we got some companies to support us, so we are sponsored.
So what kind of companies saw what you were doing and said, hey, we want to participate in that?
So some of the companies that have sponsored our events are one, Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat is a plant-based protein. They're in McDonald's, Carl's Jr., Subway, almost any chain restaurant you can think of. They now are getting vegan alternatives or vegetarian alternatives for people who don't eat meat and stuff like that. We're also sponsored by GT's Kombucha, which is one of the biggest kombucha companies in the world. And GT Dave is awesome, and he's donated so many boxes of kombucha for us, the gear, everything. He's an awesome dude, and I love him. Sambazon, who are phenomenal. They basically are a fair trade company, and they make acai bowls and energy drinks. They're awesome. I love them. And basically what they do also is they donate a lot of their money to the Amazon rainforest. They're called Sambazon. You guys should check them out. They're awesome. Great food, great energy drinks, and other brands like All Good Brand, which are Coral Reef Safe Sunscreen, and another nonprofit that supported us, the Tree Organization, and they basically helped me start up my campaigns and everything like that. But I've had all this support, and basically I've grown it big enough, so our last event, we were able to have a 300-person beach cleanup with a Beyond Meat truck serving 150 Beyond Meat burgers. Thank you.
So 300 people came out. So it
Yes.
started with 1, and then it grew to 2, and then it grew to 3, and then it multiplied. And you've had 300 people at one time just descend on a beach in Southern California with the sole purpose of cleaning it up. And then I heard that your sponsors came out to the beach, served hamburgers or vegan burgers or Beyond Meat burgers.
So we had a Beyond Meat truck come out too, and they served 150 burgers for the first 150 people that came to the event. So that was awesome of them. We also had performances by some of my friends, but also some other artists outside. One of the main artists that we had was Quinn, and she also brought her boyfriend, who is, I don't know if you guys know him, his name's Six Lack or Black, but he's done a lot. He's a Grammy-nominated artist, and he came out and helped us as well. So we're having a lot of support from the music industry, and that's kind of what
So you're making it fun. It de-stresses. Exactly. Your friends come along. Somebody gives you free Beyond Meat burgers. Bands come out and start to play while you're cleaning the beach. Sounds like a party. Sounds like awesome.
Yeah.
And it's turning into a movement.
Exactly. We really want to make it fun for the public and fun for the youth, because I was able to see my friends who never cleaned a beach before in their entire lives come out to my events and clean beaches. I've seen people that I don't even know come up to me and be like, bro, this was the first time I went to a beach and cleaned it, and like this is the reason why. And I find that super amazing and super cool. And you were able to educate people at the beach cleanups and let them realize that, hey, like just because you're cleaning a beach, just because you're helping the environment, doesn't mean it can't be fun. You can combine whatever you want to do, any passion you have with the environment. And once people realize that, so much opportunity opens up.
Okay, plus I understand now you've got new ideas because you're also a musician. And you have friends that are musicians, and they came out and played. But now you have another idea. What's your next idea?
So like what we've been doing is we've been putting on concerts at our beach cleanups, but I kind of want to take it up a level and basically put on bigger concerts at venues and basically use that money that we get from those concerts and use those monies that we get hopefully from music festivals to basically fund like ocean conservation operations around the world, be able to open up new chapters and stuff like that.
Come on, now this is so beautiful to me. And tomorrow we actually have a beach cleanup opportunity. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so we're going to have a beach cleanup at Pismo Beach.
All of you are welcome?
Yes.
Pismo Beach, what time?
So Pismo Beach from 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. we're going to be cleaning up.
10 a.m.
Why did I say p.m.? 10 a.m. Don't come at p.m. Come at a.m. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There we go. That was the right. But basically, we're gonna have a beach cleanup out there, right next to the pier, and we're just gonna. Whoever wants to come out, come out. It's gonna be an amazing time. We're gonna have some music, just clean the beach, have a good time. Like, it's just so cool seeing everyone out there. You meet so many cool people, and you just realize, like, wow, like this is actually not that bad. It's actually kind of fun to be out there and to clean a beach, and it's just really cool to see.
And so what I love is that it starts with one, it multiplies, it goes. And, you know, how many of us like to walk on the beach? And is it a small step as you're walking along the beach to actually see the garbage and clean it up? You know, it starts a movement and creates awareness. And I just think it's so incredible. And as you were sharing your story in the back room, there's a couple there. Are they still there? They are. Yeah. That actually in Grover Beach said, you know, we walk on Grover Beach. Was it Oceana or Grover Beach? And they just started cleaning up all the plastic just by themselves, spontaneously, all the glass, all the this, and collecting. And, you know, anybody can do this. It's so simple. So what would you say to all these people and to people watching online, how they can make a difference?
So what I would say is basically just follow your passions, follow what you love, and basically do that to help the world. Use your passions to help the world. Because we all are able to make a difference in this world, and we're all able to impact each other in so many ways that we don't even know. We have a platform called social media. We have social media. We can connect with anyone in the world, literally. You can connect with anyone, famous or not, a lot of followers or not. You can connect with anyone. And it's amazing to see that we can use platforms that we have today and use the technology we have today to advance us and basically inspire a whole nation, a whole world. And that's amazing. Like, no other group can say that.
Wow. And Annie and Fran are the inspiration. Like, you connected with Tyler. You're the ones that know Christina and have helped her along her journey. So do you have any, like, closing thoughts?
Well, I have two questions, Tyler. You're a full-time student, right?
Yes, I am.
See, isn't that great? I mean, he's a full-time student, and sometimes we say, oh, we don't have enough time, but Tyler's a full-time student, and he's out starting a whole new movement, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
How old are you, Tyler?
I'm 20 years old.
Wow, 20 years old. Come on. And how old are you, Christina?
23.
23. Come on. Wow.
I'm 25.
Now, Annie is like started years ago. She's a forerunner in the environmental movement. And I had one question I wanted to ask Annie before I dismiss us all. You can go back to their tables and talk to them and interact with them. But one question is that she's part of the Marine Protection Committee or whatever.
Yeah, MPA, Marine Protection Area Council.
Area Council for the state of California. And I know that, you know, I just want to depoliticize all of this, okay? And because it becomes, well, we're going to protect this area, and then the fishermen can't fish, and then this can't that, and, you know, and it becomes like crazy. But what is the actual results of protecting an area where it's becoming endangered in the marine? What actually happens at the end for fishermen?
So just quickly, I'll tell the story on that because I've been working with the MPA Council for like 12 years when it just started getting going on Catalina Island in Southern California. And there was a lot of pushback from fishermen because they were like, how dare you can't close off our areas where we, you know, and they thought it would really negatively impact them. Well, 12 years just...
And Wesley is a fisherman.
Yes.
Yes, a good fisherman,
and I love
too.
fishermen. Come on. So, but here's the thing that's happened, the spillover, there's so much more biomass just in the 10 years that they've really been going. The biomass is, which means the size of the fish and the weight, the how many of them, okay, not only how many.
So there's more fish
there's
now
not only
for
more
fishermen?
fish, but
they're bigger fish?
yes.
Okay,
Doesn't
so
that sound
it's a
good,
win-win.
fishermen? Yeah. And so now the fishermen are seeing, this is awesome. And we really need to, you know, we need to see more MPAs. And that's something that, you know, sometimes you need to think outside the box, and it doesn't maybe make sense at the onset. But we see there's one MPA on the island that's been there since 1988. And that was like the first one in the whole area. And the fish are at least 3 or 4 times this big. And the cool thing is these fish stay right in that marine protected area. And they know if they go out, it's fair game. And you can snorkel right up to them. You can get within 6 inches. They don't swim away. It's amazing. It's like they know that connection, whereas we think, oh, it's a fish. But no, they really know that connection, that they're safe. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I love the way Annie and Fran always talk about creation, because it's beautiful that, we care for them and they sustain us. And it's like that's how God made the cycle of life to go. So we are going to open it up if anybody has any questions from the floor. And again, we want to invite you tomorrow and we just have like 10 minutes of questions, and we'll then let you go talk to them individually at the tables. But if you have 2 hours tomorrow, or even one, come at 10 to 11, or 11 to 12, or 10 to 12. Just come down to Pismo Beach and let's work together and let's take care of our little region. And next time, you and your husband go walking on a beach. Look. See the glass, the paper, the plastic. And while you're walking on the beach, be part of a solution instead of part of the problem. So, there. Okay, any questions?
All right, for Tyler, have you ever thought about helping others organize on beaches, not even close to you, like using social media, something like that, helping them get set up, maybe even branching off of your organization? I know it's a big thing, but I think people would love to jump on it, especially if you live on or near a beach, if they knew how to kind of get started. So have you thought about how to do that, or have you actually done that?
Yeah, so we're actually trying to open up a lot more chapters. We opened up a chapter in Torrance at the school called Rolling Hills Preparatory. And so we have a club there on campus, so they're going to try to be doing the same things that we do, and we'll provide them with materials and stuff that they may need and stuff like that. We're going to open up a chapter in San Diego, at one of the colleges down there. We're going to open up one up in Northern California. So we're going to try to hit all the coasts and try to basically hit East Coast. We're trying to expand as much as we can to get as many people educated and basically try to raise enough money to basically fund other operations around the world and around the U.S. Yeah. Thank you.
To you can get a book on Amazon, How to Write Grants, and start searching. There's grants out there for people like you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And there's young ladies that would love to do all the research around you, and they will help you write those grants.
But also, for anybody here or anybody watching online, Mountain and Sea Adventures, you can actually go for a weekend camp, a ship camp. You can send your youth, your college students. They have YWAM camps out there, environmental camps. I mean, even to go have that experience, is an amazing thing, and learn and participate, kayak, snorkel, scuba dive, all those things, which are awesome. Okay, questions?
We also are doing a Galapagos trip. If anybody, we've got some eco tours. One of the things that we do we have a family camp at Catalina Island, and where we're actually going to be doing a practicum. We've seen actually animals be brought back that are just about extinct by declaration and praying over certain coves and doing scientific experiments. So some of these trips will show you how to do that. So
this is a special video that's being made for you. Go ahead and tell them about blessing the abalone.
Okay.
Because lots of people don't know that you can actually replenish the earth.
Yeah. It's really, it's part of what we were called to do, right? We're to walk with creation. And so we took 2 coves that were right next to each other, actually on 2 separate sides of the island. And there was 1 abalone each in each cove. And for about a year and a half, we would snorkel over the one cove and go, be fruitful, multiply, come back into your destiny, come back into what you were created to be. And in the cove right next door to it, we didn't do it. So a year and a half later, we started doing counts, scientific data counts. And in the one cove, there was 140 abalone. The other cove, there was still one. And here's the amazing thing. The abalone were about this big, okay, quite large, which usually takes them about 7 to 10 years to get that big. So there was also acceleration on there. We did the same thing on the other side of the island.
Prophesy.
We did it also with kelp. And so, those are the ways that we feel like we are to function on the earth. Take care of our problems through that, whether it be pestilence and, whatever it is.
Did that get the attention of people?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about
it got one of the gals because I wanted to check and make sure they weren't doing outplants in that area, which means they grow them in a lab and then plant them. So I went to the one lady in Laguna that does all the outplanting, and I said, Nancy, did you do any outplants on Catalina Island? She's like, no, we haven't done any. I said, are you sure? So she actually came over and did the count with us and was absolutely amazed. She's like, how can that be? And they're so big. So it gives a real open door to share. This is how we're supposed to be functioning. It shouldn't be such an amazing thing. This should just be normal business, right? So,
question. She has a question.
So I have a lot of friends that are that just graduated college for biology and whatnot, and they're really into Buddhism and the hippie kind of thing. And I've tried to talk to them about the garden and that kind of thing. How would you approach? And they're they don't want to be Christian because they think that Christians don't care about the environment. And so they're turning towards all of these alternative Eastern religions because they think that they care about the environments. But I'm like, how would you approach talking to them? Because I know scripture, but obviously I'm not in the same kind of subculture you're in, so I don't really have I don't want to have an argument, but a way to present it.
No, that's an excellent question. Here's what we've got somebody who works for us that his father was atheist and his mother's Buddhist. And so he's like, I don't really believe this stuff. And I said, well, you're a scientist, right? Yeah, I said, just watch. And, because we were talking about God show us downloads for some of the solutions. I said, it's like an experiment. It's like an experiment. Okay, you're a scientist. Just try it out and do the data. So that's one thing is, and let me just quickly, we lost, up to about the 1700s, everybody, most of cultures knew the connection with nature, that it was there. And then Descartes really cut off, and it was that said, really that creation had no soul, that there was no spirit. And so that's why there's a real dichotomy with scientists. And when you start to call out, just say, hey, go out and look at, do you feel more close to God when you're in nature? And it's hard to argue it, definitely, like you said. But that's why I feel like this movement is so important to speak out in churches, because we've abdicated it to Hinduism, Buddhism, and so it's really, we were called to do it first, right? Yeah.
Any other questions?
For Annie, do you get people who want to maybe come work with you for a time? I'm thinking more like her story. They are experienced or they're trained, and they want to come do it, but they don't want any part of Christianity, but they're attracted to you because you do safeguard the environment. And what's it like when you get those people there, and how do they leave you?
That's a great question, too. And that kind of goes, I think, with what you're talking about, too, because we don't hire just Christians. And so what we see every year is when people come and start working with us alongside of creation, and they see what is happening. It's like creation speaks, that creation cries out. Psalm 19. It really cries out to them, and it points them towards. So every year we baptize 1 or 2 people. that, and it's really exciting. And we're not like strong on you must believe. It's just we live together, we work together, we keep it real. We love creation, and that's a pretty strong point that these guys, that next generation wants to see.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any final questions? We got just time for one more question if somebody has one.
For any of you, I was just trying to find the scripture in Galatians, and I can't find it, where it talks about stoichion. Are you familiar with that? The elemental spirits, how I've heard people suggest that there's biblical premise for creation having a soul, etc. And I'm wondering what you know about the scriptural connections to that, specifically that verse from Galatians that I couldn't find before he handed me the mic. You want me to see if I can find it?
Yeah, I don't know that one, but I know, if you look at Isaiah 11:9, I think it is, where it talks about the predator and the prey lying down together, being together. The lion and the lamb. There's so many references that there will be animals and life with us in heaven, that I think that it's hard for us. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that it doesn't have a soul or spirit. But yeah, I'm not sure of that.
I think it's Galatians 2. So it would be something that would be interesting for you all as people who interact as believers with creation.
Right. One of the things, like Job, a lot of people haven't. Job 12:8 says, the earth will speak to you, the fish, they will, look at the fish, the birds of the air will tell you, the fish will teach you. So there's more of a connection that I think our mind, that we really understand now as a westernized, especially since Descartes kind of brought that big line in the sand.
Yeah, and one thing, just before we end, I'm going to let you ask any more questions just personally at the tables to them, because before we end, and I want to end on time and honor your time, because we've had quite a lot of things over the last few days, but I want to give an opportunity for us to give into these initiatives that are really beneficial for all of us and our generations. And so if you have, if we could just prepare, something, if you have, you can put it on there.
Do we have a slide?
Here, and we're going to give everything that comes here tonight, all the gifts that come tonight. We're going to split it between these ministries here, or these outreach events here. So anyway, and let's, all of us, if we all work together, the whole thing about collaboration, working together, every little bit helps somebody do something. And when we're passionate, God will use us and give us ideas that actually will benefit all of us. So I want to thank you very, very much for coming. I want us to take this sound. I want us to actually show up tomorrow at cleaning the beach. One day of cleaning the beach, I think we'd all walk through the beach differently the next time we walk through the beach. Little simple things, little things with great love can make a big, huge difference. And so in that spirit and in that heart, let's do something little with great love to actually advance the causes of people that are really out there on the front lines doing things. Awesome. Okay? How do you like that?
A great big hand. Come on.
Come on.
Fantastic.
Let's change the world.
So they have tables back at the back?
They have tables at the back. They've got T-shirts. But if you want to even ask about it, if you want to ask about coming to the Galapagos Islands, we are going, Wesley and I and Fran and Annie. It is the place actually where Darwin was. It's an amazing ecosystem. It's incredible. It's where Darwin started his ideas on the evolution of species. But if we go right to that heart of that place, we just want to see what really is there. And so we're going to do these eco tours to these places and work together. So anyway, awesome. Okay, shall we give them a big hand, everybody? Aren't they amazing? And Diane, please tell Matthew And I will tell Cameron that he was amazing. So that was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And then please talk to each other. You know, after you give your gift, please talk to each other and ask any questions you want if you have more questions. I think she had a question, so just feel free to come and ask the question.
You call me child, you set me free.
Okay.